questions. From a futures perspective, what's your view? What's your personal view in the short and the medium term? Let's say over the next 2-3 months, and then out towards the Q2 of next year. What do you think we can see in the raws and in the whites?
For raws, I would say that the market is supportive. That is from the fundamental point of view. But everybody is talking about surplus hitting the markets from either in the second quarter or third quarter of the next year. And from the funds perspective, they are not looking to trade on the spot market. They are looking at least 6 months down the line.
Well, you said in January they're going to balance their books, right?
That is index funds.
Yeah, well, yeah, but yes. All of these guys, they're...
Funds, they have already balanced out for this year. Yeah. If you look at the funds on the raws, they are almost neutral. Plus minus 5,000, 10,000 lots. Over 1 million lots open interest, right? So they have already booked out their bonuses and very happy, right? They got good chunk of money in sugar this year.
Yeah.
So, but then going forward, I think if 2 or 3 funds would be interested, they would push up the market, but they would be going long on either put spreads or buying out puts for next year. Okay. Because the volatility in the backward months is quite less, which gives them an incentive to go long on the options. And given that they are already holding long, small long, and if they want to push up the market, they would be there in the market.
So I guess the question is, are we going to go down from here? Probably not just yet, but it feels like at some point next year we're going to see some price pressure downwards.
If I talk typically about the funds, they would not be looking at sugar alone. I would like to club it with other commodities. As in, like if I give you an example on the last year, the weather event was quite crucial in Brazil. So from Brazil, what would you do looking at the Brazilian weather? First thing is you look at the most fragile crop, that is coffee. Then you will look at sugar. If you are only on the soft side, right? They took out a conclusion that coffee being more fragile and more susceptible to the price rise, less of an open interest, it would be more easy to move that market up or down. Sugarcane, where already like 1 million lots is there, moving up and down would be quite a tremendous job. They went long on coffee and simultaneously short on sugar, right?
Yeah.
So when we look at from the sugar perspective, we think that at 18 the funds are sitting 270,000 lots short. But if you look at their overall picture, they are long on coffee, where they have minted out more than 50%, pushed up the market, including cocoa as well, because of that particular region.
So it's actually more balanced than you think?
It is more balanced. They look at it as a basket, not sugar or standalone.
So, Vipul, thank you very much. That was very insightful. So we're now going to switch it up and start looking at the grains market. So we've got Naran is going to talk to us now. So Naran she's based in Egypt, and so she's going to focus on the Egyptian's grain trade. So guys, gents, please feel free to jump in as well if you want to comment on the grain side. But looking forward to hearing from you, Naran. So tell us a bit about the wheat trade, and its dynamics in Egypt, and the wider MENA region. How are things going? Everything with the government tenders. Obviously you have complexities of supply at the moment.
Egypt has been very popular the past few years.
I mean, it's a huge importing market. So it's one of the great bellwethers on the African continent. Tell us about it. What's the news? What are the stories coming out of Egypt?
I'll tell you. First, I want to thank the gentleman for covering the sugar trade market. For Egypt, as you know, that Egypt is one of the big players for wheat trade, specifically from the Black Sea region, importing nearly 11 million tons a year, 40% for the gas, 60% for the private sector. But we cannot be accurate about numbers because sometimes gas need to buy more to support the subsidy rate program. That's one thing. For Egypt, we've been facing many challenges, starting from the dollar crisis that we suffered from. As the result of that, we couldn't import, and even the import
couldn't pay.
Right? We couldn't pay. Of course, we don't have dollars in the country, so we couldn't. Only the gas, of course, and even gas used to pay from abroad. And the private sector, only the small companies who had accounts in Dubai were able to import. But luckily, because of the foreign investments that we're having these years in Egypt, it's huge, the dollar issue is solved. For this, we're now importing, and we can see...
Solved for the long run?
Yes, it is solved. It is solved not only because of the foreign investments as well. We can see that because of the loans, definitely, and the investments, the dollar issue is solved And we can see also the big quantities back to the ports. We didn't use we didn't used to see the handy sizes for long. Now we can see 30 up to 16,000 tons in Egypt for
Panamax
wheat.
is, yeah.
Yes, finally. So that's a point that we're lucky to.
Because you've got the dollars to pay for those size
Finally.
of vessels. Yeah,
Yes,
it's
yes.
not that kind of hand-to-mouth flow coming down in the little coasters.
It's absolutely solved.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Does the exchange react now?
The exchange, sorry?
The exchange market, the forex market reacts to this thing that you solve the problem with the dollar. So like it's an appreciation of the Egyptian
It's
pound.
still fixed. The number is fixed,
Yeah.
yes. But the good point that we're looking for that BRICS, that we're supposed to have with Russia, the countries that should have this trade or the currency that they will use, we're hopefully looking forward to see it happening.
Yeah, it's going to be, if they can get these kind of things to work,
We
without
hope.
the dollar, it could be a new world order. It's just, does anybody want anything
They've
other
been
than the
planning
dollar?
for this
That's
for
always
years,
the
but now
question.
we want to see it happening because
Yeah.
they've been planning for this for long and
Yeah.
no action's taken. So we're looking forward to see this happening in the market, of course.
I mean, you've touched on, on Russia there, but how have things in the Black Sea affected the trade for you? Obviously, it's been a complicated few years.
Yes.
Especially, Egypt's proximity. You're always supplied usually out of the Black Sea. So, tell us about that. How have logistics changed? How have trade flows changed? What's happened
Previously,
there?
we used to rely more on the Ukrainian crops, but after what's happening and because of the attacks on the vessels, especially after the last one, there was an attack on a vessel coming to Egypt. After that, the prices went really high, and the insurance, of course, sometimes they do not cover the war. The insurance are not covering any war, so that's why Egypt moved to the Russian market. Now, it's not we stopped buying from Ukraine. No, we still buy from Ukraine, but maybe soybeans or corn. But for wheat specifically, we moved completely to the Russian market. So that's the point.
And
Because-
the European Union can help you. Like I know that you take some grains from Romania,
Yeah, we take from Romania,
others.
Bulgaria, yes.
They couldn't supply a bit more, like to. Yeah.
That's what we're trying to do now because we cannot rely 100% on Russia or Ukraine because both countries, they have the crisis. We have to look to other origins. So that's why also now we're having Romanian, Bulgarian, and French sometimes if we're looking for higher protein level. So that's also important to add.
On Indian side also, Nick, we have a little bit of tightness on stock. So I mean, there could be, the government still continues with a 40% import duty. But I mean, Mr. Sood, sort of sitting right in front of us, mentioned to us that there are the power corridor till the new crop comes in. I mean, we're just going to the last bag of the.
Really, so there's stocks drawn
And
down.
also, what we are learning now is the farmer used to always sell during the harvest, but now with the ancillary income and the double income which will come from other sources which he has, he's also become a stockist to sell for 12 months. So you really don't see a farmer comes in the month of April, March,
to
and
sell
April and
everything in
sell
one go,
everything else.
yeah.
You suddenly you go back and you have a 12-month of farmer cartelization. and they tend to sort of sell as well. So I mean, as far as if India gives any scare to the world market, I mean, I'm not a grain expert, but I think what I learned from Mr. Sood, I'm just pointing it out here very openly, is that we are going to a very tight stock in the country.
You've got droughts in Russia. I mean, the crop is not looking really as good as.
So
watch
Yeah,
out
it's
India as
tight.
well if
Yeah.
Egypt is buying.
That's why Egypt now is looking for huge innovation for the agriculture sector. So
Well,
we
that's
can
going to be my
supply
next question.
Locally.
What can we do? I
Great.
mean, what innovation, what technology, Nuran, can be used to help domestic production to wean away from these huge exports?
Yes, we have to. But what we can see now improvement in the agriculture sector in Egypt, like using the desert lands to make it suitable for agriculture, using technology, and this is the point I wanted to talk about also, like the agriculture sector is using the desert with the groundwater. They're bringing water from other sources to the desert and make it suitable for agriculture. And that's a point I just saw also to help farmers use these lands. Other than that, we don't have any other options because the population is raising really high. So this will not stop the huge reliance on import at all, even with this development in the agriculture sector.
the population growth.
It will never stop. We cannot
Yeah.
stop importing from any other country in the world.
I mean, really, you look at pop growth, and there's a little bit of growth in India. Everywhere else falls off a cliff for the next 80 years, and on the African continent, 2 billion more people come from the African continent. Most from sub-Saharan, 1.2 billion from Eastern, a bit from North, and then everybody else.
110 million in Egypt.
Yeah. Well, Nigeria, they say, will go to 750 million. Can you imagine by the end of the century? So it's quite extraordinary what's going to happen.
We
But
cannot even estimate in Egypt how many people we will.
I think
be in the century. We
Egypt's going to
can't.
peak at over 300 million around. So you think, you're importing 11 million tons now. If you don't,
Something.
innovate, if you don't do something, you're going to be importing 30 million tons, over the next 80
Yes.
years. So this is something that that governments have to work on.
They have to, of course.
But they can develop only closer to the Nile, or there are other areas
No,
where you
other
can
areas,
extend.
of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
The desert, because we
Yeah.
have huge deserts in Egypt. That's why they are now working on having more agri-technology to use these lands.
Well, how you bring water from to put there in the ground in the desert?
That's what they are working on now. We can see huge projects, but I don't have many details about this project, but we have a project that's working on bringing the water to these lands.
That's very interesting.
I mean,